Hi, this is Michael. Thanks for spending time with me this afternoon. Today, we'll review the primer to the session, The Journey of Self-Discovery. First, what an honor that you chose to share this time with me. Our goal here today is to acquaint you with the process of self-discovery. Personal growth and self-discovery have been a lifelong quest of mine, enabling me to make significant changes in virtually every aspect of my life. My story is one of overcoming and healing a very traumatic and abusive past. But it did not stop there. I wanted to learn and know more, first about who I truly am and what I really wanted in life. This was followed by an even deeper quest to discover the meaning of life and how I fit in. It was the changes I made, along with what I learned along the way, that prompted the educator and teacher in me to develop a framework to help others on their own journey of self-discovery. This is when I wrote my book. It is my hope to inspire and guide others on their own ultimate journey to discover you. So why are you here today? Most likely it's a question or questions that you have with respect to your life or a life of itself. Sometimes we hit bottom, as I did before I decided to take that hard look within. Others are driven to want to find out why, not satisfied with the answers they have been told to believe. Whether it is to overcome a difficult life or simply to satisfy an insatiable curiosity, it is true that the answers we are seeking all lie within each of us. But before we can hear this quiet voice, we must deal with the aspects of our life that are holding us back. We must peel away the many layers of self to discover what really is inside each of us. For me, it all started with a question. My journey consciously began with a simple question a near stranger asked me. I was having dinner with a consultant I was working with, and out of the blue, he looked at me and asked me the question, Michael, are you happy? I replied, stating that I had a good job, a beautiful wife, and a home. He acknowledged my reply, stayed quiet, and then once again asked me the same question. This time I squirmed in my chair. My mind was racing to formulate that good reply, that response. But instead, tears came to my eyes as I whispered back to him, I don't know. I don't even know what happiness really is. William Bridges, a great author of mine, refers to these times as wake-up calls, where a situation we are experiencing causes us to reflect on our life. These are typically a result of a painful situation, such as the death of a loved one, loss of a job, or a major blow or event we experience. In my case, it was a simple question that started the wheels turning. I wanted to ignore this experience, but often I lay awake wishing I had never had dinner that night. And now I am forever thankful to that person, that stranger, and the many teachers I had since who created a challenging situation for me, which became a stimulus for my growth. I often start these sessions by polling my audience, asking them why are they here? The first time I ask this, their answers are typically the standard responses you would expect. But as our discussion pursued and trust and respect was gained, their responses were more profound. The list here are some of the common responses I hear. I suggest that you stop the video for a few moments and consider why you are here. Why are you watching this video? What answers are you seeking? Your answers may take time to come to the surface. In my case, I had buried so much of my past in pain that it required being in a supportive setting, counseling in my case, to admit to the counselor myself that I was feeling alone, scared, and depressed. It took a tremendous amount of courage for me and for many to admit that we are struggling if we're really honest with ourselves. This may require that we are in the right setting and with the right people, often trained professionals, to help us really understand our truth, beginning with the questions we are asking. There's an expression, no pain, no gain. Although life does not need to follow this premise, it often does nudge us on our way. Pain is often a stimulus for our growth. Humans inherently want to feel happy, to feel good. Pain is a reminder that we are not where we want to be. We have several choices during these times. Very often, we're not even aware that we have choices. We'll come back to that later. Some fight back, blaming others for the pain. Others try to escape the situation, often turning to one of the many abuses, alcohol, drugs, etc. We may choose to remain in denial or using excuses to keep the topic of our pain at arm's length. Or we can choose to stop and confront our situation. This is the most challenging response, but the most rewarding. The Buddhist philosophy states that life is difficult. It's one of their core tenets. As I traveled the globe and volunteered in some of the most challenging situations, I realized that life was indeed challenging for most. What stood out for me was not only the array and severity of the challenges people experienced, but even more so the response many of these people had to these situations. I share a lot of these stories in my talk on my modern day vision quest, another session I offer. What it boiled down to is the core tenet of personal growth, which is listed here on the next slide. Life is choices. Everything we do represents a choice. It is indeed our free will. Right now, you are making choices related to what you are doing, thinking, perceptions, biases, all during this video. Things that very often we're not even conscious about. Choice is that tiny space between an activity that we're engaged in or something that's happening around us, referred to as the stimulus, and the response we ultimately make. It is in that fraction of a second that we can change our life for the better or worse. Most of the time, we operate on automatic, reacting to a situation without any thought. We are largely unaware or unconscious to why we made the response we did. I push you, you push me right back. Why? Yes, that's the question a 5-year-old asks all day long. To truly answer this takes willingness and courage to learn belief we have that prompts this immediate reaction. This is one of the most powerful aspects to personal growth and why so many struggle with this journey. It requires that we raise to a conscious level the responses we are taking and understand the consequences of these actions and then reconsider our options or choices. Growth is not easy. It takes a lot of courage and strength to make the choice, to take responsibility for your own life. That's really what it's about. Herein lies one of the core tenets of personal growth. It is easier to blame others for our situation rather than to take responsibility ourselves. In my case, it was easier to blame my parents or others for my struggles. After all, I grew up in an abusive home. It was easy to blame them. It was easy to come up with excuses to remain status quo so I didn't have to change. Some even find comfort in bad situations and bad events repeating themselves since this is only what they know. It's scary to attempt change. That's why it's difficult making that step. It's hard to take ownership of our own choices and actions. It's hard since for those of us who experience trauma and abuse, we need to learn how to accept what happened and then be able to move on. Sometimes our anger keeps us stuck. It is easy to find justification for our anger from others. It is hard to make the choice to let go. So what are you? Victim or victor? I presume you're here because you're choosing the latter. These are the easiest questions to answer. Often it asks, is it difficult and challenging? Then why do I do it? What is the justification for personal growth? Simply put, if you are in need of justification or reasons for your personal growth and self-discovery, then chances are this is not the right step for you or not the right time. It is true that there needs to be a motivation combined with the courage and stamina to make this plunge. There are many other characteristics that one should consider, which we will review later. In my case, it was simple. The pain was too much, and I made the decision to get help. Personal growth and self-discovery is a lot like running a marathon, in that you're going to encounter many obstacles along the way, temptations to stop, and you will need to remind yourself of what your motivation is to continue. We all tend to like structure. We find a recipe to help us make a new food, and then we follow it. We seek training to provide us with the step-by-step to learn a new job. What you will find with personal growth and self-discovery is that there is an overall framework or process, but within this framework or process, there's no best way. There's no right way, only your way. Herein lies the challenge. Shown here are some of the many paths individuals use to discover their truth. In addition to paths are the large number of steps or methods you can use. Just go to this aspect of the bookstore or library, type in personal growth, and see the wide variety of books and resources that are out there. There's many what I refer to as tools for self-discovery. Many tools, many methods, many structures you can use, many free of charge to begin the healing process and discovery process. This is why people often seek out others to tell them what to do. This is okay to start, but then you must learn to be reliant on yourself, not only to the teachings of others, but also to your choices. You must find your own way. There are many pearls of wisdom that I can share about the journey of self-discovery, too many to attempt to even share in a single session. Throughout my sessions, I share these little tidbits I learned along the way. Now let's take a look at what the process of self-discovery looks like. At its highest level, there are 3 distinct stages to personal growth and self-discovery. I use the analogy of a tree to characterize each stage. I developed this based on years of listening to the array of so many wonderful teachers who walked and blazed this path before me. Then I collected hundreds of amazing stories of others making this journey. What did they do? How did they do it? I began to see a pattern emerge, which is what this diagram portrays. The next few slides will review each stage in a little more detail. My own purpose centers around the first stage is personal growth. A tree cannot exist without a root system. What we see above the surface is in large part due to the strength of the roots of a tree, which are hidden beneath the ground. The function of the roots is to obtain the nutrients from the soil to feed the rest of the tree, along with providing a firm footing for the tree to remain secure. The strength and resilience of the tree needed to weather the many storms, droughts, wind, cold, and heat the tree will experience over its lifetime comes from the roots. The roots for us include our physical, mental, and emotional health, which include our self-esteem, self-awareness, beliefs, values, health, and ability to manage ourselves in a wide variety of situations. These are the elements within us that allow us to survive and ultimately thrive. Without these, neither a true nor human being can withstand the challenges it will experience. In this stage of personal growth, we focus on identifying our personal issues that hold us back from being our full potential and or experiencing greater levels of happiness. What we uncover is that we have developed unhealthy beliefs that are part of our root structure or inner unconsciousness that are the basis for the behaviors and choices we make that lead to the more negative consequences we experience. We improve this by improving the nutrients within ourselves, a healthier self-esteem, belief system, value structure, perspectives, as well as understanding of ourself, our physical, mental, and emotional health. It's a pretty comprehensive makeover. My own purpose. Once we are on our feet and navigating life effectively and with healthier degrees of happiness, love, and joy, we may choose to just not survive, to not just get by, but to thrive. We want to become our full potential. This is the part of the tree that's visible to others. A healthy tree flaunts its strong branches, the deep color of its leaves, and may even surprise us with bountiful blossoms or changes in colors. For us, it is the choice to shed our masks and facades we have worn, to understand who we really are and want to be. We come to redefine happiness and success to mean what we want them to mean versus what we were told to believe. We form our own truth and then learn how to become that person. During self-discovery, we take a deeper look within to develop our core beliefs, our values, and ultimately our purpose. These beliefs keep us strong no matter what others say and do. We become resilient to whatever life throws at us. We endure and now thrive. We stand on our own 2 feet and rely less on the external aspects of life and others to make us happy. Happiness now comes from within. These are the great outcomes of a successful self-discovery. There's a third stage for those who choose to go even further within their own discovery. A tree is not only dependent on itself for survival, but also with factors outside of its direct control or external to the tree itself. For example, the tree is dependent on light for the process of photosynthesis, which keeps the leaves green while producing the much needed oxygen that all life forms, including us, need to survive. This light is often connotated with a source greater than ourselves that is responsible for life itself. There are those that subscribe to what others have told them regarding this greater source, as well as those that are inspired and curious to forming their own views, perceptions, and beliefs on this. This stage is where we make a conscious choice to go deep within and understand life's great mysteries, including why we are here. This is the stage of enlightenment, where we confront our mortality and go even deeper within to connect with our soul, spirit, source, higher power, or however you come to define this greater and enduring aspect of self and life. Each progressive stage is more challenging than the prior, but builds on it. This is primarily due to the willingness one must have to separate themselves from the mainstream philosophies and those that subscribe to them, which is not an easy thing to do. I use the analogy of climbing a mountain to describe moving through the stages of personal growth and self-discovery. There are often many people at the base of the mountain, enjoying the trails and scenery. We can learn and gain some insight here. Then there are those who desire to go further. They look up and with curiosity and interest, decide to want to go, see it, and experience the challenge. This requires additional training and preparation often. Often small groups of individuals make this journey together. There's a degree of comfort and safety being with others. We are motivated by each other, pushing ourselves to keep going when we each individually hit personal obstacles and want to stop. A goal was achieved. We made it up to this next step. But for a few, there's even another mountain to climb, the highest one yet. We look around and no one wants to join us. It's too scary. It's too different. I don't know how. What will happen? Our determination to challenge ourselves and to achieve the experience of self-actualizing pushes us forward. It's lonely at times, and the obstacles now require that we learn to even dig deeper within us and depend on ourselves more and more. And then it happens. We reach this new pinnacle in our life, in our awareness, in our consciousness. The view now is from a whole different perspective as compared to being down in the valley or in the mainstream. There's new insight gained about life and who we are. This becomes a new way for us, a new way of life. However, we often need to return to that pinnacle or to a new pinnacle to remind ourselves of this new perspective, because it's not easy to maintain it. We don't want to return, but realize that we must, for it's easy to be a high priest on the mountain. What's so amazing is that we share our experience with over 7 billion other human beings here on Earth. We share the air, water, food, and other resources for our basic sustenance. We share many of the same challenges of our human experience, altered by where we live and to varying degrees. We share faith and hope since we have all landed in this corner of the galaxy and have a quest to understand why we are here. We share feeling alone at times, even though we are surrounded by 7 billion neighbors. As I volunteered and traveled across the globe and talked with hundreds of individuals, I realized that despite our differences, we all share a common quest for health, wealth, and happiness to varying degrees. No matter where we lived, what we did, we shared so much of this in common. We are trying to make it through life, a mystery that we all had different views on, but yet still a mystery we agreed to. We all wanted to experience joy and happiness and to experience the feeling of being loved. We were all in search of home, whatever or wherever this may be. By the way, it's been estimated that over 108 billion humans walked this earth before us. Amazing, isn't it, to think of that? Hard to even fathom. Just stop and attempt to fathom this and think about this. On the lighter side, you would think that by now we would have figured out life. We all share the same life cycle. We were each born into this world as an infant and progressed through the stages, from child to adult, performing some form of work to make ends meet, raise our families, experience success, failure, and loss, and eventually even to grow old for most and then die. Not one of the 108 billion that I'm aware of escaped this life cycle. There are some who believe that we repeat this process of life and birth many times, known as reincarnation. But whether or not this is true, I ask you to consider one fact that is irrefutable. What is that? Why is that we are here now? All right, distracted. You heard my dog barking, and here I was almost at the end. Oh, well, that's life. So let me pick it up. Again, let's start here. We all share the same life cycle. We're born into this world as an infant and hopefully progress through the many stages from child to adult, performing some form of work to make ends meet, to raise our families, experience success, failure, and loss, and eventually even to grow old for most, and then die. Not one of the 108 billion that I'm aware of escaped this cycle. There are some who believe that we repeat this process over and over of life and birth many times, referred to as reincarnation. Whether or not this is true, I ask you to consider one fact that is irrefutable, which is that you're here now. You are in a cycle of life here and now. At some point, and yes, you will die. This is the life we should focus on and make the most of. The rest is conjecture and beliefs. Our goal, I believe, should be to make the most out of what we have here, this lifetime, and to become our full potential and die with a feeling of a mission accomplished, making the most of this life, no matter where you start in this process. I challenged this assertion early on, since life for so many was filled with struggle and pain as it was for me. I asked, how could this be if there's a God? This is one of the primary benefits of my journey, was to understand that there is purpose to life. The culmination of a million different experiences that slowly chipped away at my ego and so-called intellect to help form this ultimate conclusion. There is meaning to life. I hope that this primer provided some insight into the process of personal growth and self-discovery. This concludes our pre-work for the upcoming session. During this next session, I will share with openness and candidness my own story, not for personal gain, but to utilize the story to connect with many of you and to share key learnings that I had along the way. I share my experience from the person in the hot seat, the one going through all the trials and tribulations of personal growth. This relates to part 1 of my book, Discovering Michael, an inspirational guide to personal growth and self-discovery. This includes activities and reflection exercises following each chapter. Our personal growth begins with an understanding of our current state and how this was influenced by our past, the nurture-nature effect. Then we'll focus on the psychology of growth and learn the steps to peeling away the many aspects of self. I will share my experience with the many tools to discover who and what you are. I look forward to continuing our discussion. Here is to discovering you.